Should we review games we don't enjoy? That was the question I asked you all about 3 days ago. And we've had 2,600 interactions and responses to that question so far on the channel. And it's interesting because the data coming back from this communication is both affirming and also in a variety of ways kind of confusing in terms of how the audience and how the industry communicates to content creators and communicates to us throughout our existence here on Quackalope. And we're going to be taking a hard approach. We're going to be taking another attempt or another stance at how we approach review content and how we approach critical content here on the channel. I mean, in fact, we're rebuilding everything we do from the ground up in a lot of ways, and review content is absolutely part of that conversation. If you haven't seen the stuff that we've been doing with the past 2 AM gameplays, we're going much more in the Tabletop with Will Wheaton style. If you haven't checked out our preview videos, we've been highlighting them with B-roll and slick transitions. If you haven't seen Shira's top 10 video of all time, I'm telling you, it's some of the slickest editing we've ever done on the show. And that's what we're leaning towards. That's the direction we're going. And now that we're bringing on an editor full-time here at Quackalope, we're actually going to be in the position where our review content can not only step up a notch when it comes to production quality, but also the people who are reviewing the game will be able to focus on actually playing, covering, and being thorough in our reviews without having the pressure or the added weight of the 10, 15 hours that it takes to actually produce a video be alongside that conversation. So, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this poll, and let's talk about critical content. Let's talk about critical review content, and my perception of it, and how I want to continue approaching it as a channel, because that's one of the most salient points here. And one of the things that a lot of people commented on is that it comes down to what we believe we are, and what we would like to do for the community in this regard. If we don't think we're journalistic to any regards, if we don't have any veil of trying to give you honest or critical feedback, then there's no expectation from the audience side for us to do that. I know a lot of reviewers in our industry, I know a lot of publishers in our industry that only ever want positive content. They have no interest in playing games that they don't enjoy. They have no interest in diving back in and sitting down for hours upon hours with something that is not fun for them. And while I understand that methodology, I understand that approach, I also think the audience that's here asking for critical reviews, I join with them. I agree with them that our industry benefits from criticism. The games that are designed, the publishers that are out there, the communities that are out there benefit from having more thorough, more accurate, and yeah, in some ways, more aggressive and more cutthroat commentary on titles. And it's not that you want to focus on or beat up on or be brutal against a single game or a single publisher, a single individual. That's never the goal. But games at the end of the day are a product. They are a piece of merchandise. They are fair to criticism and judgment and personal influence, just like books and movies and other things of artistic expression. And while it is not always fun to be on the receiving end of that communication, I think for an audience and for a consumer and for a community that's trying to build around this hobby and improve this hobby, fair and critical and balanced reviews are an essential part of that growth. And so I think it would hurt us as a channel, and I don't think I would enjoy the role that we have in this space if reviews and review conversations were not part of what we were contributing. I mean, I, like you, find that I gravitate to reviewers that give me as much accurate data as possible. And honestly, the reviewers that consistently only want to be positive, I find that I stop listening to, I stop paying attention to. And so there's a balance there with what I consume, with what I enjoy, and what I enjoy producing, and a balance there with what I feel like you all, the viewer, the consumer, the community, are looking for in content. Now, we're not only a review channel, right? That's also the other balance. We definitely still do preview videos. We definitely still do sponsored gameplay videos. We do a wide variety of content. And whenever we do review content, especially when we're doing crossovers on Board Game Co. or with other channels, we always do our best to let you know what caveats we have there that are conditioning our view of a game or conditioning your perception of our review of a game. So that dance is also part of that conversation. But I think, and I lean into the camp of negative content, negative and critical content is beneficial for our community. Critical reviews are beneficial for our community. And I believe that we here at Quackalope should be providing them. Now, that doesn't mean I want to sit down and play a game that I hate 50 times, right? Because that's the other balance. So let's dive into this poll. Let's talk about the responses and talk about my perception of the questions and how we're approaching this now. So, should we review games we don't enjoy? The first option I gave you was yes, pick a game and commit to it. Let me go ahead and read through the options, and then let's have a conversation about the responses to them. So yes, you should review a game you don't enjoy, pick a game and commit to it. No, the industry needs more positivity. Yes, but only if you play it multiple times. No, don't keep playing it if you don't like it. And yes, be cutthroat, which is an interesting one. So, yes, pick a game and commit to it. 26% of the audience voted for that one. And I think this is a fair stance, and one of the reasons why I put it down here at the top is because that is the approach Quackalope is starting to take from this point forward with a lot of our in-depth review content. We've actually been restructuring the team here, and Shira and West are kind of positioning themselves to be liaisons to Patreon. Shira is going to be handling and making sure that we do our due diligence with every review that we do here on the channel, and she's going to be handling the back-end editing on that as well. West is going to be posting polls, one set of polls a month that give our Patreon members the chance to vote on the titles we cover here on the channel when it comes to thorough and in-depth reviews. Here's the cool thing. The 26% of you that wanted us to pick a game and commit to it, that's what this conversation is about. We are going to be deciding the game before we decide our hardcore opinion on it, so that we can sit down and we can say, I loved this game the first time I played it, and the 7th time I played it, I honestly stopped enjoying it as much, and the 15th time we played it, I found that it became really boring and I'd kind of exhausted my entire experience with it, and now it's leaving the collection. I want to be able to go on that journey with you when it comes to a title, and one of the ways that we can do that, one of the ways that we can commit to having thorough and accurate and critical reviews, even of games that we stop enjoying somewhere along the process, is to make it so that our Patreon community is sponsoring and choosing those titles that we dig into. For 2 reasons. One, because when that's the case, we know that there's an audience that is invested in that content, the Patreon community. And 2, if we have the Patreon community supporting and sponsoring those videos, we know that we have a reason to continue diving in. It's very hard and in many ways unfair the way the board game community, and I mean both publishers and viewers alike, ask content creators to produce high-quality content, to produce review videos, to produce anything, honestly, at the cost of a game, at the cost of free, at the cost of views that we get here on the channel. And I understand we're pursuing a ambitious hobby in a weird creative space, but there is a balance there. You all have voted unanimously in favor of us playing and reviewing games, of being critical. Well, that's great, but that's also meaning that you're asking us to spend 10 hours, 20 hours, however long, sitting down and playing through titles that we already said we don't enjoy. How often do you do that? Is that how your gaming experience actually operates or works? I understand it from a journalistic standpoint, but journalists get paid for their work. And so, for us, tying that to Patreon, committing to a title through Patreon, knowing that the community that we have here is interacting with us, is following up with us, is choosing the games that we're invested in, so that they financially make sense and so that they have a viewership that makes sense. That's our approach. And along with that, it means that we can do things like, game session 1 updates, gameplay number 5 videos, bonus content to send over to the Patreon community that's tied to those games that we're learning and playing and diving into here on the channel. So that's the other part of the conversation, is if they vote on something, we get to then support them with that content. Number 2, no, the industry needs more positivity. A conversation that I don't know if it's coming from the community side as much as it's coming from the publisher and more established industry side. There is a strong perception in our very tight-knit, kind of high school-like bubble that positivity is lacking in our community, that we need more glowing reviews, that we need more support and more creative uplifting in the hobby space. And I understand that. I want people to succeed. I want to support people. If you see anything here in Quackalope, is we have more guests than near any other channel in the board game space. We collaborate more than most other channels in the board game space. We do our very best to highlight indie creators and designers and have conversations and support smaller channels. We are all about positivity when it comes to building community and when it comes to support in this space. However, I think the industry side of this conversation is very different from the consumer side of this conversation. I think consumers feel in some ways manipulated or in some ways bought and sold a bill of goods. There is a difference between a group of people who are producing and publishing and want mutual camaraderie and support within that sense, and a group of people that are the consumers, that love the games and love the publishers and love the people, but at the end of the day, they need accurate and honest information for them to judge and gauge whether or not a game is going to be worth their money. And so there's a balancing act there. I get it. You spend years of your life working on a title. You're a designer that is still scraping to get by. You're a publisher that still works out of your garage. I don't want to hurt any of those people. I don't. I have no desire to. And honestly, a review coming from Dice Tower or Shut Up and Sit Down that is directly negative would hurt some of those people, and do hurt some of those people. However, there's still a caveat there, that the consumer deserves accurate and honest information. And so we've approached that with series like our Right For You, Wrong For You series, and other things that let us have a conversation around criticism without being directly negative. But only 3% of the audience voted on the thing, no, the industry needs more positivity. From a consumer perspective, from an audience perspective, that's not what you say you're looking for. So, I find that very interesting. The largest voting block by far with 42%, yes, but only if you play it multiple times. And I think this one's totally fair. I for the record, don't sit down and review games that we have not played multiple times unless I disclose that to you all, the audience, and let you know that we've only played it once, or these are more first impressions than they are hardcore reviews. But the balancing act here, the 42% of you that are saying, should I review a game that I don't enjoy, that are also following up and saying, yes, but only if you play it multiple times, what you're saying to us as a content creator is, I found a game I don't enjoy. Should I let you know that? Yes, please let us know that, but only after you've spent more time not enjoying it. That kind of sucks, right? Like, we've already talked about this and the way that we're approaching this with the methodology when it comes to Patreon and the support that we have here in the community, but that's sort of a fun balancing act, and from us as creators, we have to figure out how we can enjoy the process of playing and reviewing games that we don't enjoy. Like, that game in of itself, finding little nobules, playing and just being honest on camera, like letting the Patreon know that we're filming this video despite you all. It's an interesting conversation, but 42% of our audience said yes, but only if you play it multiple times, which is the plan, which has always been the plan, but the ask that's being made there is a very interesting, very compelling one, and with 2.6 thousand individuals voting for this poll, something like 1,200 of them voted for that mark right there. The 1,200 of you that voted for that, I would challenge you to consider supporting us and consider supporting other content creators that you get value from, because you're directly asking for us to do something that is not fun, that is more journalistic, that is not the hobby that we joined in order to produce worthwhile content to you without returning value on our end. So keep that in mind. And some people argue that getting a game from a publisher is returning value. From my side of things, it's not even close. If you value your hourly or your time at all, a game from a publisher costs the publisher $10, $15. When you look at like the actual cost, and from a consumer, it might save you $60 or $70, and then you're expected to sit down and spend 10, 15, 20 hours diving into that title, filming videos, talking about it articulately. It's a whole thing. It's a whole balancing act. And I don't love the way our industry, our industry approaches most content creators in this space as if they owe something for being sent or offered a game. And the consumer, the viewer, treats it kind of the same way. And don't get me wrong, I love getting free things. I love getting board games. I love having things come into the studio. But in no way is a copy of a game worth the amount of time and production that we put into the coverage that we do here on the channel. It's well above that. The camera that I'm filming on is more expensive than, you know, the library of games I have sitting next to me. So the second to last poll we have here, no, don't keep playing if you don't like it. The direct counter to that 42% that said we should play multiple times, 12% of people voted on this. So the entire group of people, 15% of people, that is it, that voted no, don't review games you don't enjoy. That is all. And this group said don't keep playing it if you don't enjoy it. And they're coming from the side that I think is reasonable. If you don't like the game, why are you going to continue exposing yourself to it? It's a reasonable conversation. I do think the answer is because the audience demands it, because the audience wants it, because critical reviews are beneficial for this community. But it's an interesting conversation. And then the final one, at 16%, and I put this one in here for fun. I normally do with polls, but it definitely garnered some attention. Yes, be cutthroat. The direct counter in my mind to the industry needs more positivity. And this one I think is also fair and also accurate. You should not hold punches if you're doing a review. If you have played the game enough times to be accurate, be descriptive, be thorough, that's just what you should be, and what we're going to be doing here more and more on the channel. We've had a variety of series based around reviews. Again, the Right For You, Wrong For You series. We have the Played It Once. We have the Play This Not That from Board Game Co. We have the confirmation bias, the high and low. There's a lot of things that we've experimented with here in the channel, and we're going to be bringing those back into rotation and into circulation more and more moving forward, and more consistently moving forward. It's one of the things that Shira is going to be working on, is the consistency and the expectation when it comes to reviews from the consumer perspective. Kind of like the Shut Up and Sit Down schedule, you should understand and be aware of when a high-quality review is going to be going out on our channel, and if that's the content you want to consume, you should know that like every Thursday, 10 a.m., you can tune in and you can check out that type of video. Because we do a lot of content here on the channel, and helping you all disseminate and understand when and where that content's posted, I think is valuable and I think is important. So, that's the conversation. Overwhelmingly in favor of us reviewing games that we are not fans of. Overwhelmingly in favor of us being critical and thorough while still doing our due diligence, while still playing the game multiple times. And that's the goal. That has always been the goal here on the channel, but that is more and more the goal. And now that we've had this conversation, we'll be able to continue moving forward in this direction. It's a fascinating thing, though, because from a consumer side point, what we have experienced in the past is that while the consumer says they want critical reviews, they also do indicate that they want critical reviews around games that they are critical of. They don't want critical reviews around games that they are not critical of. And I won't name names here on the channel, but we have posted quite a few review content in the past around games that I personally did not enjoy, that I had played multiple times, that I'd done my due diligence on, and received more negativity and pushback around those videos than our other content here on the channel. Now, again, attention breeds some degree of negativity, right? Some degree of vocal minority, some degree of even vocal majority will not agree with your opinion, especially when you're taking a more critical or more hard stance. I think it's part of the nature of the conversation, but I think it is also why people tend to review those type of conversations. I'm not scared of that. I'm not scared of the group or community that finds criticism or critical content, especially around titles that they personally enjoy a lot, to be dangerous. So we're going to dig in. And then from a publisher side, I understand why they are wary of and don't appreciate critical content in this space. That's also a different balancing act. That's also part of the puzzle, right? And so there's this give and take. We kind of position ourselves in the middle, and the more we dive into this, the more we dig into this, the more we say that critical content is good for our hobby, the less friends we have on both sides. And this is a small industry with a lot of interconnected people. And so sometimes that feels dangerous. Sometimes that feels intimidating or scary. And so keep that in mind as well. But with that being said, the people hath spoken, and we're here listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Let us know down below. What's your opinion on this whole conversation? Like, do you think critical reviews are healthy for the community? Are you excited about the approach we're taking? Are you excited about the conversation in general? Or are we missing the mark? And the 3% of people that said we need more positivity in this space, they should be louder and their voice should be heard more. Thanks for being here. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. I'll see you next time.